What's going on, you salty dogs? We're down here at the mouth of the, well, not the mouth. We're down along the lower part of the Merrimack River. Where some tidal fluctuations, begin to make their presence known. Essex County, Massachusetts, to speak, very generally. What you're looking at there is a plant that you would not, nor would anybody really, expect to find growing down here. In fact, I believe this is the sole population in Massachusetts. Pretty inaccessible, actually. It took me forever to find it. Regardless, and even then, it's not necessarily something in danger of being poached here. So this is an exemplary population, despite it being substantially disjunct from the rest of its, co-occurring, the rest of its populations. This is Paronychia argyrocoma, all right? And what I'm going to do right now, put up a population map of this thing. You won't see it occurring anywhere near the state of Massachusetts. What you're going to see it growing up in the White Mountain area of New Hampshire, a little bit into the Mahoosucs in Maine, and then you're going to see it all over the place down in like southern Appalachia. So this is a plant that inhabits 3 specific habitat types. The first one, being this, is the sole population that occurs of its kind, occurring along the banks of rivers, basically. The other 2 would be, subalpine balds, like up in the White Mountains. Not generally up above 3,000 feet. It's not like a super alpine tundra plant. But it is present like up there, typically on balds or along the banks of rivers. But that's more of like an ice scour community, like gravelly riverbeds, not this rocky cliff. And I'm not even gonna be able to zoom out to show the context because I really don't want to do anything to give the population away. But I mean, I don't. Again, there's no real. I just want to be clear. It's a healthy population, and it was relatively, I don't think anybody's been out here to check on this in a while, so I'm going to be reporting as much detail back to the state as I possibly can. But anyway, it took me a while to find it. This is Paronychia argyrocoma, one of a handful of Paronychia species we do get in New England. This probably being the most iconic. I think Silverling is one of the common names for this one. And this is just a really weird... really weird disjunct, okay? So what people theorize happened is, again, remember, this thing is growing up in like ice scour communities up in New Hampshire and Maine, more notoriously along the Saco River, not the Pemigewasset, but at some point one of the 2 or 3 populations along the Pemigewasset must have sent a seed, downstream, down the Merrimack to here, where it was able to at some point wash ashore and spread into what is considered to be one of the most exemplary populations of the species. All right. So now Caryophyllaceae, that's the family this is in. That's the same family as like carnations, and also as the same family as a bunch of really cool succulent alpine desert dwelling plants. Minuartia, so like the stitchworts are in that family, and they're really plants that are able to take a beating, for lack of a better term. Hey, sorry about that. There was a boat going by. I didn't want to just chatting to the people. There's a bunch of baby ducks following their fishing lines around. So anyway, I think that's a good explanation of Caryophyllaceae, just the habitat in general. And I'll be blunt, there's not much really growing around here other than, you've got some dicantheliums, you get some cool rushes and mosses. The, tree line behind us here is mostly, composed of a couple oak trees, white pine, and then a Juniperus virginiana. So it doesn't really, that's kind of comes with the territory, literally. It's not usually growing in these super rich, diverse communities of plants, but what the heck? It's fascinating in its own right. I'll zoom in here. I'll give you, some of the close-ups because it is in flower right now. And Silverling, I can see how it kind of gets that common name, but I'll zoom in here for a second. See if I can get in on one of those individual flowers. Yeah, there you go. So you're going to have Come on, don't do this to me. Oh, okay, being fresh. Your typical Caryophyllaceae affair. Parts of 5, generally speaking. Yeah, there you go, that's nice. So, I mean, I'll show you a couple of the co-occurring species. Again, I really don't want to be too specific about where it is, but it's not someplace you just, happen to wander across willy-nilly. You'd have to, I mean, again, I thought I knew exactly where it was, and it still took me hours to freaking find the thing. But you zoom out a bit, I'll show you kind of a better example. Yeah, there you go. That's nice. That's really the gist of the habitat there. And I mean, at some point, I got to figure out how I'm going to get myself back out of here. But yeah, Paronychia, argyrocoma, Silverling, the sole population in Massachusetts, as far as I'm aware, and one that, I mean, it's S1 by default because it's only down to one population, but very healthy and robust. Seems to really like it here. And again, it's already, a weird disjunct as is. It is split between the White Mountains of New Hampshire and far western Maine and like southern Appalachians, I think maybe Black Mountain area, where it presumably also grows at a higher elevation. So just for that reason alone, I've been fascinated with the thing. Couldn't wait to come out and see it. So this population's been documented here since I think like the 1850s, documented again in 1945, documented again in the 70s and 80s, and then I believe the last time anyone has really had eyes on this specific population of the thing would have been like 2000. Some excellent reporting done on it because it is, it's one of those plants that it's abundant where it occurs. It is the habitat and the risk of habitat degradation that is, its biggest threat for survival. So there's nothing specifically attacking, this plant other than, it being trampled on stream sides or along trail sides. It doesn't really seem to be suffering from any sort of, invasive pathogen or thing like that. But I mean, I think with that, we can pretty much wrap this up. We'll keep it nice and tidy. And again, just to zoom in on some of the anatomical portions, those would be the leaves there. What does it feel like? It's actually not as hard and stiff as I thought it would be. They make pills for that now. But the cute little flowers on it are beautiful. What a cutie. Oops, cut me off. There's some of the Dichonthelium grass, rosette panagrasses. No clue what specific species, but I can always ask my friend. And there's a nice rush. Again, no clue what species. It's a dead red cedar. That is actually one of the concerns for the species is, canopy encroachment. Plants coming in, like big woody plants coming in and growing over it. But they would have to, grow out directly over granite rock. And indeed, that's what all this is. That's what it likes to grow on up in the mountains too. It's predominantly granite. So not too much interesting here. I'll see if I can at least get it down to get an idea of what species that Dichonthelium and that rush could be. Yeah, you see, look, there's a nice little, where is it? I just had it right there. Nice little patch of it. Coming right out the cliff. Beautiful plant. Not as small as I thought it would be. That was a relief. I was really afraid this thing was going to be tiny and that I was going by it, but I didn't see it. Damn. Okay. I think that's gonna do it. There's some other stuff growing around here I might grab really quick, just for the curiosity, like this, like Hypericum gentinoides and stuff like that. We'll see if there's anything worth doing, and then I really gotta paddle myself out of here. And just let's just take a moment of zen. Oh, Jesus, they're everywhere. They're coming up, like almost underneath me. I really don't want to trample the little things. Beautiful plants, and again, just I just really want to hammer home that this is like a replication of like an Arctic environment. It's not an Arctic, Alpine environment. These balds. This is like one of those habitats where people talk about, oh, you just move it. You can't. You're getting two lessons in one here. Some things you can't just move because their occurrence is so sporadic and such a result of happenstance that it's just, it would be a futile attempt to do so. And then other things, you can't move because the habitat is so specific. Actually, 3 lessons in one. The third being, this is a plant that would basically, its sole threat right now is that it's going to get crowded out by the forest, further inland here. That it's going to, basically become, shaded out, needs full sun. It's adapted to just absolutely alternating between absolutely baking in the sun and then being frozen, clung to the side of a rock where you can see there really is no substrate there. It's coming up kind of almost with like moss as its anchor. And everything here is just draped in moss. That's par for the course. Haircat moss, and I'm looking, and there's like little ones growing too. So it almost would appear to me that there's like, where'd he go? There he is. My thing's all fogged up because my camera got soaked today. Look, there's a little one. So there's almost like there's recruitment. So this population is probably fluctuating too, which isn't inherently a bad thing. I've seen counts for this population range from 150 to like over 300. And I mean, they're healthy looking, like they look good. They're all flowering. I guess some of them aren't. That one's not flowering there. But you get the idea. This is the type of stuff that's just fascinating. This is like a plant that I'm obviously interested in it, in the biology and in the fact that it's just it's a cool plant in its own regard. Even in the core of its two, main habitats, it's not the most common thing in the world. But I mean, I really like to get away from, talking about, plants for the sake of rarity. It feels like you're just collecting, you're just hoarding. There's an interesting story here. That's really honestly why I wanted to come out and talk about this one. I'm really, we're all guilty of it, I think, to some extent when we first get into plants. We're all guilty of, treasure hunting, so to speak, or trophy hunting, I should say. But I just want to hammer home that, it's not cool to just be into this for the sake of finding rare plants. It's okay to get stoked when you do. You know what I mean? But I just, there's some things that I've been offered, like, hey, I'll show you this. And I'm just like, like, especially with someone like the rare Plantanther. There are some Plantanther that are down to a single population. And don't get me wrong. When the time is right or when the opportunity, feels appropriate, I would love to check it out. But I'm not chomping at the bit necessarily. Just go out of my way to just catalog only the rare plants, only care about them. There's a whole context here and a whole habitat that is a story. It's very fascinating and worthy to get into. A seed or multiple seeds, at some point, these seeds made their way down the Pemigewasset into the Merrimack, all the way down to, here, Essex County, northeastern Massachusetts, and established not only one plant, but established a thriving colony, a colony that has been continuously documented for almost 200 years. That's fucking fascinating. So, don't knock the little guys, don't knock the stuff that's not, the showiest thing in the world. Get out there, and if you're gonna hunt for the rare plants, just, please, take care. I checked every possible resource I could to find out if it was okay if I'm here. This island's covered, the area is covered in trash also, so I know people are coming here. Thankfully, they don't seem to be fucking around over here, but I mean, it's one of those things where document it now. Thankfully, it seems like this will be around for a while, but document it now because you never know what could happen in the near future. In any case, Paronychia, argyrocoma, I hope, oh geez, the goose just scared the shit out of me. I hope that folks got something interesting out of this. Again, if you really, if you're one of those orchid guys, that's fine. I'm friends with a ton of orchid guys. I'm not here to gatekeep the hobby, but I value the opinions of actual professionals. And, this will all be submitted, documented to the state. I did a rough count. And my estimate, there's like 200 of them here. I've counted. I'm going to try to do one thorough count before I pack up and head out, but I think we're going to leave it there. Population looks to be in exceptional health. Most of them are flowering now or about to get ready to flower, and I got to get out of here because it's starting to get dark and stormy. It's been a shitty weekend for most of the United States. I hope that you're all staying safe out there. Do whatever it is that you do that keeps you happy and keeps you sane. Because for me, that's coming out to look at Paronychia argyrocoma, and I would say friends, but he's mostly just hanging out with mosses and lichens. Take it easy, folks. Don't be ashamed to hang out with moss and lichens. Uh-oh. That's trouble. They got the Coast Guard out here. I wonder if they know my dad. He was stationed, actually no, he's never been stationed over here. That's cool though. Coast Guard, that's one of the RHIs. Not bad. I like the cutters. I like the big boats. Not ships, cutters. Got to remember that. Coast Guard doesn't have ships, they have cutters. Pretty cool. You know, I really got to commend, also, sorry, real quick. I didn't end up getting out unscathed. I actually messed myself up pretty bad on one of the rocks. Not where I saw the plant though, ironically. I really got to commend these like folding kayaks. You know what I mean? I grew up like with the fun yaks, like the 8-footers. I can't fit them in my SUV, but this thing folds up, and I mean, as long as you can generally, you know, still see the shore, you're as good as gold. Which you know, I don't want to, again. Well, actually, it doesn't matter. I'm nowhere near where I was now, and you know, this is Merrimack River. You know, I'm that close to shore, provided you're not getting out, you know, too far out there. But it does have one flaw where there's a crease in the front. This is just to consider if you ever want to get one of these. It does have a crease in the front. So I always was taught, I grew up around boats, you know what I mean? I was a freaking deck officer on the Mount Washington. If you know, you know. Not the mountain, the actual boat. Usually you want to hit waves, you know, you want to cut through them. If you try to cut the waves on this thing, there's a crease in the front, and just ever so slightly, a little thing up at the tip, and the water can kind of stream in. I almost shit myself dealing with that a few days ago, last weekend, when I first took this thing out to really try it out. I got the hang of it now. You got to roll them sideways, which is actually probably more proper technique. All right, I got to put this thing down because I'm coming out and it's the wind's pushing me around a little bit. But yeah, folding kayak. This is the what are we gonna call it? The HMS. What should we call it? The HMS, or not HMS? That's Her Majesty's ship. The call it the MV. You know what? Write in. If you got a good name for the official NEcology kayak, write in and let me know what you think it should be. What a beautiful day to be out on the Merrimack. What a beautiful day. Take it easy, folks. I gotta paddle somewhere. I put it in a few miles. I put it in a couple miles upstream or downstream. Maybe you don't know. After all, I'm floating. I'm floating in a different direction. Okay. I don't want to be lost at sea. I'll see you guys later.